Hello, hi, and welcome to another edition of the Digital Arts Show. I'm Jim Suriani, your host with the most. I have to say that every single time because I'm contractually obligated to do so. I'm kidding. This show is part of the Digital Arts Festival that is produced by Center Stage Theater of Santa Barbara, California. The Digital Arts Festival shows stream nightly at 7 p.m. now through April 30th, and you can find out more about them on the Center Stage website, centerstagetheater.org, and you click on the blog tab just in the upper right-hand corner. Again, that's centerstagetheater.org, and click on the blog to learn all about the Digital Arts Festival shows that we've done so far. The purpose of the Digital Arts Festival is to create an outlet for artists of all kinds to share their work. And because of the quarantine, many artists and performers, very suddenly and abruptly actually, found themselves with no way to show their work or to perform. In some cases, the work these creators have done may never be seen by the public, and which is unfortunate. But in an effort to find some sort of workaround, if you will, the Digital Arts Festival was created to help artists and performers connect with their audiences virtually. We will have dance, theater, music, film, visual arts, poetry, storytelling, and much more on the show. And I'm very excited to be involved with this process and so grateful to Center Stage Theater for putting this together. And again, you can learn more on the Center Stage website, centerstagetheater.org, and click on the blog tab. Today's guest is Joan Rosenberg-Dent. Joan is a sculptor working mainly in porcelain and mixed media. She received her Master of Fine Arts degree at Cranbrook Academy of Art. Joan taught at many universities, including Pennsylvania State University, University of Michigan, and was chairman of ceramics and glass at Ohio University. She currently serves on the Dean's Advisory Council, School of Art and Design at the University of Michigan. Her work is in several permanent museum collections, including Renwick Gallery of the Smithsonian Institute, UC Santa Barbara Special Collections, Ridley-Tree Cancer Center, and in many private collections as well. Welcome to the show, Joan. It's so good to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
It's this is such a wonderful experience, kind of a different thing for all of us. So let me ask you right off the bat, how did you get started in sculpting?
Oh, how did I get started? I actually started as a ceramic artist, and at the time, traditionally you only threw pots. It was all about making pots, and I was never interested in pots. So I started filling my ceramic vessels with forms, and then the forms became even more important. So I took them out of the vessel completely and started with the forms and did tabletop forms, floor forms, sculptures until I was exhausted with just doing sculpture. And I said, I wonder if I can put it on the ceiling or the walls or something different. So I started doing wall pieces, and that's how my pieces have evolved. I don't know that I'm going to stay with wall pieces forever, but right now that's where I'm at, and I'm really thrilled about doing big pieces out of multiple hundreds of parts.
Nice, nice. Now, how has your work evolved over the years?
Well, that's kind of how it evolved. I started off as when I was a kid. I was not a real well kid, and my mother would give me clay on a tray, and I would play with that clay for hours. I'd get crayons and pencils and paints, but the clay. So I always had this feeling for this tactile plastic material ever since I can remember. And then when I graduated high school for college, I was very involved in dance. And I thought I would go on and become a dancer. And I taught dance all through high school, all through college. And when I went away to school, my father said, "What do you mean you're majoring in dance?" And I said, "What do you mean? That's what I want to do." And he said, no. You have to be a teacher or nurse. I mean, that was the sensibility at the time.
Right.
So I became a teacher, but always having this passion for performing arts and visual arts. And now that I'm a visual artist, I sort of feel like I'm the choreographer and I make these sculptures and they become the dancers. So I'm still involved in the space and the form relationship that dance and visual arts offers me.
Wow, that's amazing. And I was going to ask you to tell us about your pieces that are inspired by dance. I understand you have a piece that was inspired by Martha Graham.
That was a breakthrough in my life. When I was a freshman at college, and I thought I was majoring in dance. I still danced all through college, and Martha Graham came to our school every year for a week and put on a master dance class. And she would come in these long draped black dresses, barefoot, and leaning on her cane. And I was so used to being stuffed into tight toe shoes and wearing these little tiny tight leotards, and it was the most freeing experience was to see how you could dance in a different way. And after that, I never put my toe shoes back on. And I was in my studio years later thinking of that breakthrough in my life, how she freed me and brought me to a new place. So I did this whole series inspired by Martha Graham. It's Just Her Gesture that I recall of her in these long draped flowing dresses.
Wow, that's a wonderful inspiration. And I was watching your video earlier that you sent to Center Stage, and you in the video you pointed out the Martha Graham piece, and I looked at that going, oh my gosh, yeah, you can see it. You can see how she's in the piece, if you will. It's really a remarkable artwork. Um, Tell us, so you mentioned that you work with porcelain. Why do you work with porcelain as opposed to other mediums?
Well, I have tried every single kind of clay because I knew I had to make a living and support my children as a single parent. So I tried every single kind of clay that I could put my hands on so I could be the best teacher for my students. And once I touched porcelain, I fell in love with it because you can work really thin and fine and it maintains its strength. The only negative is that you can only go so big because it will collapse. It's kind of working with Philadelphia cream cheese, and you have about 5 minutes if you work as thin as I do until it becomes crunch. So you have to work it rapidly, which I love the spontaneity of it. And I like the whiteness of it. And most importantly is I like the translucency because my pieces really depend on light and shadow and line to complete the piece. And the only clay that will work that thin to allow the light to pass through is porcelain. So I became hooked on porcelain and it's been my life's journey for the last 40 years.
Wow, that's amazing. And uh, I'm loving the pieces you have behind you on the wall there. Tell us a little bit about your pieces. What are they mainly about?
Well, all my pieces begin with the concept. We're sitting in my study now, which is the overflow. I have hardly any walls in my studio, so this is like the overflow. So these aren't the most exciting pieces, but I still do treasure them. So I start with a concept, an idea of what I'm trying to do, and then I abstract from it, and then the piece evolves. So let me just turn around and see what you're looking at. This piece right here, the black and white one, is called Hugs and a Kiss.
Oh,
So
okay.
all the hugs and the kiss.
And the kiss, yes. Okay,
And
yeah.
I really enjoy putting different things together like black and white or one different element or something that will bring attention between the two pieces and make the white look even whiter and the black look even blacker. This piece over here, I've forgotten the name of it. I'm sorry. It's about, oh, dangling concepts. Because
Oh,
these all move. I won't dangle them out for you, but
oh,
they
okay.
all move. And it's really about shadow. There is a drawn shadow that you can't see, I'm sure, out of graphite, right on the panel. And then with a really good light, this is not lit, I'm just in daylight, this casts a second shadow and then the form. So there's 3 tiers of depth. So that's that piece. And it's about dangling concepts, things you're thinking about that aren't quite formed, that just kind of dangle in the air.
Right.
And can you see the last piece? I guess I don't think you can see that.
No,
Can you
yeah, I
see
can
the
tell
last one
there's,
over there?
we
Oh,
can't see it in the frame, but yeah, I can tell there's something in the corner there. But yeah,
well,
we
that's
can't.
a mixed media. That's a mixed media piece, and it's um, it's about the tides. I walk on the beach every day, and the tides are changing. And this is low tide right now, but there's just a little splash at the end of the water, and that splash is out of porcelain, and the rest of it is out of paper. But the paper is heavyweight watercolor paper that has the feel and the of porcelain. So it's very hard to distinguish unless you're up close, but it's even thinner than the porcelain. And what I've done is I burnt each edge with match. So the edges really are defined, well-defined edges. So when you look at the ocean and you see all these little breaks in the water, they're very defined with the sun shining on them. And that was the image I had when I came home and started that.
Nice. So tell us why wall pieces as opposed to pieces that sit on the floor or on a table. Um, why wall pieces?
Well, I've never thought about putting porcelain on a wall. Don't forget, I come from a traditional pottery background, and it was never even conceived or thought about. And this is something very fresh and new and exciting and challenging. How to get those pieces on the wall? What form should they take? And it gives me a whole different dimension to work in, to spread out in, to spread my pieces laterally instead of building me. And it, because I'm working in multiples, I could get as big or as small as I want. So the limitation of the porcelain is no longer.
I see. I see. Wow, that's amazing. Um, so tell us, who are some of your mentors or who inspires you the most as far as artists are concerned?
I was really inspired by Richard DeVore, who did teach at Cranbrook and then went on to Denver. And he was the only vessel maker I knew that was making very thin sculptural pieces with other overlaid parts. And they were so elegant. And I love the linear quality that you can achieve with clay. When I was trained, it was all this real pottery, Peter Bulkus kind of look, thick slabs of clay, manipulated by the strongest men you could see. There were no women in clay. So the mentors were mostly men. And then I came upon Ruth Duckworth, and her pieces were sculptural, and they were white, and they were porcelain, and I just identified with them so much. I would do anything to own a Ruth Duckworth piece. And it just became like my aesthetic. And I'll tell you an interesting story about my aesthetic is that I developed this aesthetic because of the passion and the love I had of porcelain and working thin like Ruth Duckworth. I, I, I worked that way forever. And finally, we went to Japan for the first time. And I knew nothing about Japan or Japanese ceramics. This was a long time ago, in the 60s. And went to Japan, and I was shocked because they were all doing my aesthetic. I had never been exposed to Japanese ceramics, and I was blown away. So I relate very strongly to the Japanese aesthetic. And a lot of my pieces in this room, in fact, are from a recent trip to Japan. I've been there many, many times. And forms that I see, very minimal forms, clean, fresh, with a lot of meaning. I relate to their entire aesthetic.
Wow, that's amazing. That's very cool. Joan, by any chance, do you have a website that we can give out so people can see your art digitally or online?
Yes, it is www.jrdspan.com.
Okay, let me just read that back for those who might be grabbing a pen just like I did. So it's www.jrdstudio.artspan.com.
www.jrdstudio.artspan.com.
Great. And we can give that out again as we go along here. Again, that's www.jrdstudio.artspan.com. And you can check out Joan's work on her website there as well. Tell us a little bit about your creative process.
By creative process, you mean how I form pieces
Yeah, like take us
or
through
what
like
I think about?
yeah, like from the time you start thinking about a piece to when it's finally completed. What is that process like for you usually?
No, I do not draw out a piece and figure it out and lay it out and then fabricate it, because I know I can fabricate whatever it is I want to do. And that would be very boring for me because the puzzle's solved. So what I like to do, what I love to do, is just start with an idea and let the pieces just roll off my fingers and try different things with small amounts of clay. Just try forms out. And once I get a form that I'm excited about, start combining with other forms. And I'll have a whole table full and I'll start playing, just like a child with toys, with Legos. And I just start playing and things start to happen. And that's the magic, is the discovery of the new piece. And I love it. And that's what fuels me and keeps me going. And I can hardly wait to make the piece then, because I really don't know how it will evolve. I'm working on a piece right now in the studio with, they kind of look like flowers, but not really. They're abstractions. And every day I just make more. And I don't know what form this is going to take yet. But I'm excited about collecting all the parts and then they become. So that's kind of how I work.
Nice. Now I understand you have some new commissioned work that you're working on.
Well, I finished the commission. As a matter of fact, I was very, very thrilled and didn't even know if it would make it to Italy. But
Oh,
6 feet long, and I think they were 38 inches wide or 43 wide. I can't remember. And I had been inspired by a piece that I went to arts and lectures and saw this dance company. They were all Japanese men and they were all powder face, white with like monk's robe. And they did a piece called Maguri. And it was all about the land and the sea. And it was very spiritual. I didn't really understand it, but I really felt it. And I came back and was thinking about it. And these pieces just fell off my fingers. And when I finished, some of the pieces looked like almost like flowers, like the land. And the others were just ripples. And I thought, this is it. One will be the land and one will be the sea. And I was commissioned by Regent Cruise Lines. They loved the idea. And I made these two huge pieces. I worked night and day for months. It was thousands of parts, thousands of parts. And I had these big wood panels that I had to affix, adhere each piece to. And then I had to have crates filled, and then they had to get shipped to Italy. Now my pieces are eggshell thin, and there's hundreds of pieces, and it was all in a lucite box that would go on the wall. And I had no idea how to pack it and if it would make it. And I held my breath and held my breath, and they never let me know. And I said, if you want, I'll come to Italy and I'll unpack it because I know how I packed it. And they said, that's probably a good idea. And then the virus happened, blah, blah, blah. And I never heard from them. The next thing that happened was they were showing this brand new ship called the Splendor, which is a ship to show art. It is magnificent. It's all white and contemporary. And they did a virtual tour, and there were my two pieces in the main hallway, and I flipped. I was just so excited. So I guess they made it, and they can go to Italy. I think they can go anywhere now. So I'm very relieved and looking forward to doing more commissions.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a great story. I love that, and I'm glad that your work is being seen in other places all over the world. So how has your process or your work been impacted by the stay-at-home order? Are you still able to create, or how is that going for you?
Actually, my life has not changed that much. I still go on my beach walk every single morning, get back in the studio, and I work in the studio till about 5:30, 6:30 at night. Then I come in, we have dinner, and so the only thing is I'm cooking a lot more, but and I'm thinking a lot more. The pieces I'm working on now really have to do with the beauty in life because I'm so devastated by this virus and how it's impacted the whole world and how many people have died and gotten sick that I don't want to focus on it. I try to get into something else to keep my sanity. So because I go on beach walks and nature walks every day, that's what I see. That's what I see. And I come back and think about the beauty in this world. There's still so much beauty that has not gotten impacted. And that's what I want to bring to the table is that there is beauty in the world and there's beauty in art. And we can't forget that part of life. It's so enriching and so calming and so spiritual.
Wow, that's great. It's great that you're looking at it from that perspective as opposed to, because it's so easy for any of us to look at this situation from the negative, and it sounds like you're looking at the positive. And I'll be curious to see what you create. Looking at, as you're saying, the beauty that's around us, as opposed to, having to focus on the negative. And I'll be curious to see what you come up with after the quarantine is over and once everything kind of goes back to normal a little bit. That's
Well,
amazing.
actually, what I've done is every single week, I photograph by the week 1, week 2, how this piece has evolved through the virus. And it'll be interesting to me to see how it's impacted my life over so much time. So this is my virtual diary that I'm
Right.
creating in the studio.
Nice. Now, tell us about a blog called Splat Clay on the Wall. What is that?
Well, it's it's like when I started thinking about clay on the wall, I started thinking about throwing clay on the wall, literally throwing clay on the wall. Like, what was I going to do about this idea of clay on the wall? And then it evolved into panels and pieces, and I figured it out. But I didn't know when I started thinking about what I wanted to do with clay on the wall, how in the world I was going to do it. I had no
Right.
idea.
Now, is that a blog that people can either see or read, or is it available online?
I thought that before the interview, the live interview, that it was going to be seen. That was my understanding through Center Stage. They asked me to send it.
Oh,
So
okay.
whatever.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So it'll probably be available on the blog, on the Center Stage blog, and again, the Center Stage website is centerstagetheater.org, and from that website you can click on the blog tab, and that'll take you to the Digital Arts Festival, where you can see all the information about Joan and her work, and then also the interview as well. Again, centerstagetheater.org, and click on the blog tab. Joan, I just want to thank you so much for joining us today. This has been delightful talking with you. And I just want to wish you good luck, and stay safe and stay healthy and all that good stuff during this time. And we look forward to seeing what comes next for you as far as artwork is concerned.
Well, I want to thank you very much. And I also want to invite your guests to my studio. I do studio tours by appointment, and I love to have people come visit. I frequently work with interns from UCSB. I love sharing. So, don't be strangers. If you'd like to come visit, just let me know.
Awesome, that's great. And again, to learn more about Joan's work, you can also check out her website, jrdstudio.artspan.com. Again, that's www.jrdstudio.artspan.com. And also on the blog as well, the Center Stage blog, centerstagetheater.org, and click on the blog tab, and that'll take you to the Digital Arts Festival page, and you can check out all the information there as well. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.